Welcome back to Jesus Stories. As many of you know by now, Christianity has gotten a big spotlight, and because of that, we owe a very big thank you to a guy named Billy Carson. As I'm sure just about all of you have heard about this guy, he's very much into spiritual conspiracy theories. For example, he has previously stated that Jesus was a real person except an alien. Needless to say, Billy does not claim to be a Christian and seems to hold somewhat of a New Age view and believes to one degree or another that we all are God. He's also made a number of dubious claims about the Bible. Then you have this Christian guy as well who has just skyrocketed in popularity because of Billy, and that guy's name is Wes Huff, who is an evangelical Christian and a biblical scholar. He is an expert specifically in the area of ancient biblical languages such as Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic. And leading up to their debate, Wes created a number of video responses to Billy's claims, explaining why they're not valid. And here's an example of one of them real quick.
Zeus is what they were calling out. Zeus is Hail Zeus. That's what they're saying in ancient tongue. Jesus is, first, the J is a recent letter. The J is not that old. So it really was originally Isus. And that name, Isus, means Hail Zeus. Okay? So you're calling on Zeus when you say Jesus.
When Billy says in some of his videos that Jesus means Hail Zeus, it doesn't. Zeus in Greek, it's Dios. So, and Hail in Greek is Hyro. So it would have been Hyro Deus. Does that sound like Jesus? Jesus? No, it doesn't. It's more examples of Billy, unfortunately, just either not doing his homework, fabricating things wholesale, but at the end of the day, communicating falsehoods about who Jesus is and what that means for people who follow Jesus.
Needless to say, Christians are not the biggest fan of Billy Carson, and after footage of this debate gets released, it goes viral as lots of Christians are excited to see Wes put Billy in his place. Or as WARDRADIO commonly says, we delight in truth and denounce deception. Billy then attempts to sue both Mark, Wes, and 3 other people, but was very unsuccessful in doing so. All of this went so viral that it even reached the attention of the world's biggest podcaster, Joe Rogan, who ended up bringing Wes on his show for an interview where millions of people got to hear why they can trust the Bible as a historically reliable account of the Savior. This is a very short summary of how this saga has been going on for the last number of months now, and in today's video, we're going to turn our attention to WARDRADIO, and what do they think about this? What are some of the details they might be missing, and why is this discussion even worth having in the first place? And on that note, let's get to it.
It showed me a different corner of Christian apologists. I was like, some of these people are so imbalanced, you can't... Like, when you're walking down the street and there's the homeless dude whose pants are down and he's like, the unicorns took my wallet, give me your granola. Yeah. You ignore him. Like, you can't interact with that person. They're out of their mind.
Give me your granola?
You know? Whatever.
Oh, man. I mean, needless to say, Kwaku did have me laughing a number of times during this episode, and you have to give credit where credit's due. I mean, he is a really funny and entertaining guy. But, okay, after Wes Huff and Billy Carson, their debate gets out, Billy is very quick to make a 3-hour response video, and Kwaku watches that video in which Billy explains his side of the story and how everything went down, which is good. You know, I think we should always want to hear both sides of any story. And here is how Kwaku perceived this situation.
So when this happened, I became dubious of any time I see a million headlines from like Christian YouTubers all trying to take someone down.
Okay.
I'm always like, what really happened here? So there's a guy named Billy Carson, ancient aliens kind of dude. He was on Joe Rogan. He has a channel called a whole brand called Forbidden Knowledge TV. I watched him on Andrew Schultz. It was a fun interview, and he's not the guy you fact check. He's the guy you watch to have a good time. You know what I mean? He's talking about aliens, decoding your destiny. Get your ice cream, listen to the Anunnaki stories with Billy Carson, and learn that you were King Arthur in a past life. You know what I mean? Like, just have fun. That's his thing. Have fun on Forbidden Knowledge TV, okay?
Again, I love the way he summarizes this, but I do think it's important because right here off the bat, Kwaku is acknowledging that you don't fact check Billy's claims because you're going to find out that they're demonstrably false, and it's going to ruin your fun. In other words, he's not a credible guy who provides accurate information. Now, Kwaku goes on to describe his thoughts on the actual debate of Wes versus Billy.
But as I'm watching this, he's like, slow to answer. His breath is kind of heavy. And I'm like, oh, is he like really nervous to be on this debate? In what's called the Sinai Bible.
Okay.
And Wes Huff is like, well, what part of the Sinai Bible? You mean the Codex Sinaiticus? And Billy's like, yes. Can you give us a reference to your point? Billy can't really give a reference. He's like misquoting stuff. He's super like not there, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, did he fold this bad the minute he had to face an actual expert? And I was like, he folded so bad. It was like, there's something is off. Like I've never seen anyone perform this poorly in a debate, like ever. When this comes out, dude, I'm not kidding. It's like 47 videos in a row on my algorithm. Billy Carson's career is over. The destruction of false prophet Billy Carson. Yeah. Billy Carson will never recover and his family is ashamed.
You don't trust the narrative about what happened to Billy Carson.
I don't trust because it came too fast. It wasn't naturally developing. It was like they all decided at like a Saturday at 2, they're all posting videos and running with it. It was weird. And the language was supposed to be career inflicting. So I watched his version of the events, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this clearly, obviously was a coordinated hit piece among Christian YouTubers because it was a guy they didn't like. When I listened to Billy's story, I was horrified. I was like, this is dark stuff. But the issue is, it looks pretty obvious. It was a planned and coordinated manipulation against Billy Carson and then a media smear and attack to take down someone and build up another career. That's exactly what it looked like. It's clear as day if you're not trying to be biased, because if you don't have a stake in either fight. Billy Carson's not a biblical Christian. Billy Carson's not a Mormon. We got no dog in this fight. We got zero. I'm literally just looking at this objectively like, I don't know if Billy's going to see this. If he does, hey, I took your side, man. I took your side. I saw through it. It's pretty clear what happened.
I will admit that some of the video titles are absolutely embellished. You know, Billy's career is not over. It was never in jeopardy in the first place. But there are a lot more people now who are aware of his irrational claims. And even though he's been exposed, I'm pretty sure he is doing just fine from a financial business perspective. But right now at the end, Kwaku mentions listening to Billy's side of the story and how horrified he was and how objective Kwaku is in this whole scenario because he doesn't have a dog in the fight, right? I'm not sure how many of you enjoy watching basketball, but I love basketball. And my dad's favorite team has always been the San Antonio Spurs. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, the Twin Towers. And growing up, his least favorite team was the Lakers. He just really did not like Kobe and Shaq. And here is what he would always say. My favorite team is the San Antonio Spurs, and my second favorite team is whoever is playing the Lakers. And I wouldn't be shocked if there was a little bit of that in Kwaku where, sure, neither person debating was a Mormon, but one of them was an evangelical, and I think everyone knows how Kwaku feels about evangelicals. Naturally, it would not be shocking if Kwaku was a little biased towards whoever is not the evangelical, but I could be wrong on that. Anyways, some of the important details that should be taken into consideration to get a more accurate picture of what happened leading up to this debate. Billy apparently did have a serious medical emergency leading up to this event. He claims that he had pneumonia, and here's the hospital receipt that he did show in his response video, which you can see as a service date of 9/13, and the debate took place about a month later in October. And so I have no problem granting that he was recovering from some sort of medical emergency. But here's the thing. In Billy's response video, he claimed that this life-threatening emergency happened 2 days before the debate. And because of this hospital receipt that he showed everyone, this verifies that Billy is not being truthful because this medical emergency that he's referring to happened a month before the debate. Again, we can see the service date of September 13th right here, and they had the actual debate on October 18th. And then the other thing is that Mark, who is the host right here in the middle, he was a very close friend of Billy, and they even lived in the same neighborhood. And so the way that Billy paints this scenario is that his super close friend Mark invites Billy to come on the show, then at the last minute he brings on Wes, and the two of them basically ambush Billy in a surprise debate when Billy was not expecting that at all. In other words, both of them were on the same page and were just Christians trying to set up Billy in order to humiliate him, and that was Mark's plan the entire time, to expose him, embarrass him, and post it everywhere on social media. And the way that Kwaku communicates this is very convincing. He's very confident in what he says. He says how unbiased he is. And one thing that's important to just note, again, Billy Carson's response video, which Kwaku is commenting on and how horrified he was, that was 3 hours long. So there's a number of things in there that obviously Kwaku did not touch on. I wouldn't expect him to because it's 3 hours long. But there's a number of important things that definitely add context to this situation. And so here are some things that Kwaku did not mention.
They have to network with hundreds of thousands of people all over the world to supposedly end Billy Carson's career. These defenders are actually clout chasers. That's what they are. They're pure clout chasers. And this is why this horde of cult followers are using my name, because they know it goes into the algorithm. They're just clout chasers because they don't have any knowledge. If they had knowledge, they can build their own platform on their own. They can build their own base of fans on their own. But since they don't really know anything, the only thing they can do is create controversy and attract people through dark energy. They're just energy vampires. That's all they are. All the dark energy, and all your listeners and all your followers and all your cult people and all your people that are in your organizations that are coming to watch my video with that dark energy. How are we going to see the fall of Billy Carson? That's dark energy, that frequency that's coming here. You see this behind me? That's the face of God. God is a frequency, and it's your job to tune in. Y'all didn't tune in. See, I'm tuned in. So all this dark energy that you're bringing toward me, I've alchemically converted that energy into money. That's exactly what I've done. See, the money that you thought you were making and the popularity you thought you were making is all going to be spent on attorney's fees. And I don't care if I win or lose. I just want you to spend money. I only mention the names of the people that are like losers on social media and the internet. They have no followers. Listen, man, I'm the king. I'm the GOAT, okay?
I took your side, man. I took your side. I saw through it. It's pretty clear what happened.
Billy actually ended up taking the video down from his channel very quickly after posting it, and I would say it's pretty easy to see why. But the obvious question here is this: is it wise to trust the word of a man like this? Is it wise for us to trust Billy's side of the story in light of other claims he has made and things that he has said?
He's not the guy you fact check.
Billy continued to elaborate how Wes and his multitude of cult followers, who all have created an army of thousands of cyber accounts, that they all attacked Mark and made him feel pressured into releasing the debate video.
He's in panic mode, like super panic mode, like the mafia is after him. Well, they really were, because these people operate like the mafia. They're very evil people. Don't let the Christian name, Protestant, and all these different names that they got out there for these people fool you. These people are dark, and they're evil, and they're very manipulative and very contriving. So defendant number 2 and his horde of cult people, cult followers, in some way have been attacking him. They created robots and bots to attack his comments on his post, and attack his positive posts, attack his comments from his followers, attack people on his YouTube videos, attack his live chats. Just attack. The same thing they've been doing to us, using real people and also using robots, which is really what is considered a cyber attack.
And here is Mark's side of the story and what he adds to this part of the conversation.
I got a message from him and his wife asking me to call him. I talked to him, and they had asked me not to. They had requested, I didn't get anything in writing, anything. They're like, can you not air that right now? Because his wife said, we're planning on having another debate set up. And she's like, I didn't realize you guys were having a debate, even though we talked about this for some months. And I don't want it to interfere with that, is what I was told. But anyway, for now, we won't air it. Wesley did the response video. People found out the show was done. that it wasn't, they requested it to not be aired. They found out it was on my show. I continued to get attacked for like a month on every level about this. I made time to meet with Billy and try to mediate about, can we do like a follow-up show, like something, you know, if you want to even prepare more, we could do it and have it more structured. And he's like, I don't know. I don't want to have anything to do with that Wes guy. The attacks, everything just continued. At a certain point, I finally made a decision a month later
to go live with it,
to release it. And I wrote a long explanation as to why.
To Billy.
Yep.
Okay.
And it explained how I was having attacks, defamation of my character.
So according to Billy, a lot of these attacks that Mark was getting were primarily from Wes and his cult followers and the robots they created to launch this massive cyber attack on Mark. And I'd be curious to hear what you guys think. How do you think we should carefully go about deciphering these things when we hear both Mark's story and Billy's story? Also in Billy's response video, he says over and over that he never got a chance to get a word in, that he kept getting cut off by Wes or Mark and just never got a chance to say anything. If you have not done this already, I encourage you to go and watch it for yourself. I will put a link in the description below. But to me, it definitely seemed like Billy had every opportunity to respond and speak. But he really wanted to shift away from the gospel of Barnabas, the gospel of Jesus' wife, and specific things that Wes was very easily able to debunk. But whenever Wes did respond or ask Billy a question, he was super polite and respectful. And these were not difficult gotcha questions. A lot of it was, what is your source for that claim? Or why do you believe that source is credible? And the entire debate honestly didn't even feel like a debate vibe to me. I don't think it was tense at all. And it was really just Billy making claims and then Wes asking fundamental or clarifying questions. And here's a short example of how Wes addressed one of Billy's claims. And you guys can let me know what you think.
But the Gospel of Barnabas in particular, we know it's a forgery because it does things like in chapter 92, it says that Jesus spent 40 days on Mount Sinai, and then he came to the Jordan River and he walked to Jerusalem. But Mount Sinai is more than a week's journey away from Jerusalem, and neither Mount Sinai nor Jerusalem are close to the Jordan River. So never mind there not being a route from the Jordan River to like around Mount Sinai or going to Jerusalem. But there are internal problems with the Gospel of Barnabas, which indicate that it shows no actual indication of evidence of coming from or even having knowledge of first century Jewish understanding. It actually says Jesus is the Christ, but not the Messiah, which indicates that whoever the author is, he didn't know that those were the same words. And so if we're relying on something like the Gospel of Barnabas, which is not just like, it's not that there's debate about it, it's that it's a known forgery. I mean, no one's referring to the Gospel of Barnabas as anything other than...
If you say it's a known forgery, yes, but I'm going to go with that.
I think we need to make sure that we're going towards not just early sources, but actually credible sources. And unfortunately, neither the Gospel of Barnabas nor the Gospel of Jesus' wife are credible sources in terms of actually, and agreed upon by not just the vast majority of scholarship, but I don't know anybody in the field of papyrology, paleography, historiography, who actually refers to these documents as being legitimate.
That's fair enough. I can respect that.
So Billy makes a claim citing the Gospel of Barnabas, and Wes responds and explains why the Gospel of Barnabas, as well as a few other sources that Billy cited, are not considered to be credible sources by any legitimate scholar. And Billy says, fair enough. Okay, if that's what you say, let's go with that. And as this is going on in real time, I think it's important to note what's going through Mark's head right now, the co-host, when Billy folds and gives that kind of response.
And I got thrown off when you started having your responses. I'm used to talking to my good man Billy as a great friend, and we're sitting in my backyard by my pool, and he's talking about aliens and stuff, and it's just fascinating. And he's like, here's where we found it in the pyramids. So when you started doing the first rebuttal and you gave your response, I was sitting back and I was totally ready for Billy to be like, and have this full. And when he was just like, fair enough, I'm sitting there, and it's different when you're in room than when you're online. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? Like, I was really caught off guard from that, Pat.
You seemed very uncomfortable.
And another important thing to touch on here is how Wes got involved in this in the first place. Because before this debate, Mark and Wes, they did not have any kind of relationship at all. And here's what Mark had to say on the matter. And he starts off by describing how he had been talking to Billy for a while, how it would be cool for the two of them to just come together as they both have two very different kinds of faith and just have a respectful discussion about their similarities and differences.
I've been on Billy's show. He's been on mine. We've known each other for business. And we talked for a while about, I'm a Christian. It'd be cool to have you on and just be able to talk about your beliefs and mine and let people see we can still respect each other and that we have similar core values. And then as we got closer to it, I'm like, I don't know anything about like the emerald tablets and all that good stuff. So that led me to Wes. 24 hours notice, had got a hold of Wes to be on. Then I let Billy know, hey, I gave him his name. I said he's a historian, a linguist, gave all his credentials. I'm like, would that be cool if he joined us? Because I don't know anything about that stuff. I can talk about my faith, why I believe in God, but when it comes to that, like, I'm not shy to say I'm clueless. And he's like, oh yeah, bro, like, it'll be cool. Like, I'm used to doing that. So I went into this thinking we're just going to have a great and amazing conversation as usual.
And here's what Wes had to say as well.
He's still saying he got blindsided. He's still saying he didn't really know who I am. And listen, I've talked to Mark as recently as yesterday about this because we have all the receipts. I mean, we have text messages to Billy saying who I am, what my credentials are, what we were going to be talking about. The word debate was used in the day previous when this whole thing was set up.
And there's text messages of all this stuff.
Yeah, of course there is. You know what? I also think it's pertinent to say, it could be important to say this. I specifically say, and I have a message that I sent to Mark, like, hey, because in the initial DM that Mark sent me, he said, hey, like, I'm having Billy coming to my studio, and I wonder if you could, do this thing. And my response was, hey, man, wow, that's quite the request. I'm actually up in Toronto, Canada, so I'm afraid I'm nowhere near where you are. I'd be willing to jump in digitally, but I wouldn't want to infringe on anything you've already got going on with Billy or make things awkward. I specifically said that.
Wow.
And then in the phone conversation, I said, Mark, I am fine with doing this as long as Billy doesn't think I'm trapping him. I don't want Billy to think I'm ambushing him. I used the words trap and ambush. And I said that to Mark. Those were things that were mentioned prior to this. I have this message, Mark responds and said, it's all good. I know Billy. I'm his friend. I can vouch for his character. I don't think those things will happen.
So those are kind of a brief summary of the two different sides to this story. And I'll just speak for myself. Kwaku, dude, I love you, but after watching Billy's response video and other claims he's made, I honestly don't understand how someone or why someone would choose to believe him over Mark and Wes. All of that to say, I do think it's important to be careful of what kind of sources influence our theology and our beliefs. And if Ward Radio is siding with Billy Carson, then I think that should raise a flag in the back of your mind with the question of, if they're being biased here when they're claiming to be objective, where else are they being biased and inaccurate as well?
I'm the king. I'm the GOAT, okay?
I took your side, man.
I honestly just do not want people to be misled by certain YouTube channels that claim to delight in truth and denounce deception. But there is one other reason why I wanted to talk about this. And what I want us to do real quick is take a step back and analyze this situation as a whole. So the first thing to highlight is that Wes puts out his trailer for the documentary called Can I Trust the Bible about a year ago, around April 2024. And then 6 months later in October, Wes debates Billy. Billy tries to sue Wes and Mark, which first off is 100% out of control of Wes and any other Christian. No one could have planned, predicted, or colluded that Billy was going to sue them. After Billy tries to sue them, the debate video gets released and Christian social media starts blowing up, right? In the middle of that explosion, Apologetics Canada, which is the company Wes works for, they release parts 1 and 2 of Can I Trust the Bible? After that, Joe Rogan catches wind of everything and brings Wes on for an interview. Once again, someone who is not a Christian gets involved and gives Wes pretty close to the highest platform possible. And then lastly, as a result, millions of people are now aware of Wes and his documentary, Can I Trust the Bible? When looking at this from that perspective and how God uses people, even non-Christians, to accomplish his will, it's almost like God wants people to know that we can trust his word, that it has been accurately preserved, and that many plain and precious truths have not been removed from it over the years. And I do not understand why anyone who claims to be a follower of Jesus would want to discredit that. There really has been so much truth that's been revealed through this saga. Take a look at what Wes has to say about the hundreds of people who sincerely believe the things that Billy has been claiming.
I don't think he is going to put himself into a position where he can get his facts checked, because I think his whole brand was him saying things and relying on his audience not
being ignorant,
being able to actually understand what they were talking about. And Mark, Anton, and I have all heard from no word of an exaggeration, hundreds of people who have simply said, I just didn't know. I just took him at face value. And to see him not just not give a good rebuttal, but give no rebuttal to these things that he's been saying, going back to 2017, shocked me. Like these are the messages we're kind of getting, and saying I need to rethink everything I really believe about what I've been relying on in terms of my worldview, or even like a message recently. This lady said, like, I've been teaching my kids this stuff for 5 years.
Wow.
And now I'm trying to almost like when people are in a cult and they have to do training to try to undo all that stuff. She's like, I feel like I'm doing that and it feels weird because I'm the one who taught them this stuff.
At the end of one of these interviews, the host asks Mark, again, Billy's former good friend, he asks him a really good question. And the question is this: if you knew all this was going to happen and that your friendship with Billy was going to be destroyed, would you still have gone through with it? Here's what Mark and one other source had to say on the effect that this viral saga has had on thousands, if not millions, of people.
Mark, did you know when you set this up that it was going to turn into what it turned into?
If I knew it was going to turn into what it turned into, you should be hiring me as like the biggest marketing genius. I wish I could say I was that smart.
Would you have done it if you knew what it was going to turn into? Would you have done it now, looking back?
So, yes, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, going through this whole process, Billy being a good friend of mine, this whole situation has been just insanity. But what I didn't realize, like through all the attacks and everything that was going on, now that this has gone as viral as it has, I've started to receive hundreds of messages a day from people telling me, this like chokes me, like this podcast has brought them from a dark spot back to God. And I didn't realize, I didn't have a clue how many people had been so steered away from their beliefs in God and were just fallen into darkness from.
Man, I wish we could just tell you and show you all of the people that have come to faith or back to the faith through this. It's been shocking. And the stories that people send to us, honestly, shocking.
But the beautiful part is the fruit of all this, like the fruit of people coming to Jesus, coming to the faith, coming back to the faith, maybe people that drifted, and the outpouring of support that you've gotten in the messages and the comments of, hey, I came back to the faith because of watching this conversation with Billy, and then going down and checking out your channel, and now I'm Team Jesus. Like that to me, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that on the internet.
Yeah, no, it's undeniably divinely orchestrated. I think it is. There's no way I could have gotten myself into a conversation with Billy Carson. When I made response videos, which by the way, I only had started doing like maybe a few months before that interaction actually happened. Because I don't think it was the Andrew Schultz Flagrant podcast, which was the one that people were sending me and being like, what is this guy talking about? Right? Because they didn't know. He says things, people don't know what they don't know. And I understand that. But I had friends and people reaching out to me and saying, this guy's putting this out there. How would you respond to it? And so one night when I couldn't sleep, I just kind of mapped out how I would respond to it. And the next day I just threw a video together. Like it wasn't even that much of a planning that went into it. And then I clipped it and I put it on Instagram. And so the fact that I went from that to those gaining traction to Anton sending Mark my stuff, Mark feeling like he couldn't get in this conversation and really interact and navigate it the way he wanted to, reaching out to me 24 hours beforehand, me happening to see that DM, that conversation happening, Billy reacting like he did, that gaining traction because he tried to suppress it, him trying to sue us, Rogan seeing that. Like all of these things are nothing any one of us could have put together or micromanaged.
Absolutely.
It is unanimously, unequivocally a God thing.
Amen. Amen. Again, as Wes said, it really is undeniable when you take everything into consideration that God was the one who indeed orchestrated these events. And again, if someone is claiming to be a follower of Jesus, yet criticizing this kind of event, which has resulted in God getting so much glory, and it has resulted in thousands of people finding Jesus, bringing them to the cross, finding grace and forgiveness, and gaining a relationship with their Savior, we should really question whose side that person really is on. And that's going to be a wrap for today. Until next time, thank you for watching, God bless, and remember to never stop chasing after Jesus.